Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're joining me. Thank you for joining this video with me researching coins. Today I'll be going through a detailed overview of the Omnitude ICO, which became live today, March 28th, 2018. So before I begin, just a few disclaimers. This is not financial, legal, or tax advice. This presentation should only be used for informational purposes. Also below, you can see my contact information, email, just started Twitter, and just started the YouTube channel as well. So make sure if you enjoyed this video, make sure you follow me. So who's behind researching coins? I think this is important and missed in some videos out here now in YouTube. And myself, one-man show right now. My name is Terry, and I've actually just got into crypto at the end of 2018. So I'm fairly new to the space. But I have a lot of professional experience and educational background that I think gives a little bit of legitimacy to some of the research that I've obtained and some opinions I may have. So to start off, I have bachelor's in finance, MBA in finance, and actually working towards my master's of accounting degree. We'll be finishing up that in the next few months. As far as my professional experience, I started off in retail wealth management, advising ultra high net worth clients on their investments, insurance, and lending needs. And lastly, over the last 3 years, I've been working in international M&A, mergers and acquisitions for a Fortune 50 company. Over the last 3 years, I've been involved in over 10 plus transactions of sizes ranging from $2 million up to $100 million in pretty much all over the world. So I have some international deal experience. As far as some of the skills that I bring is company valuation, and I specifically spiked out non-blockchain. This is a new arena, so trying to value a blockchain is something that's of interest of me to try to determine this, along with, I'm sure, a number of many other experts. But I specifically point this out that this is specifically discounted cash flow, companies with some type of cash flow or some venture-backed companies. I'm also skilled in strategic planning, financial analysis. I have to do a lot of research and due diligence on the companies that we're acquiring. I do a lot of executive presentations as well. And lastly, some accounting. So today, this is the agenda for the presentation, and this is a summary of my research for the Omnitude ICO. So we'll first start off with the introduction of the company. I'll talk about the market overview and market attractiveness. Next, we'll go into the operations of the business, who's leading Omnitude, who's the core team, the advisors, partners. Next, we'll talk about the roadmap. What are some key dates coming up? Some key road marks. Then we'll talk about the token information. I know everyone wants to know about the token utility and economics. We'll talk about the marketing of Omnitude. And lastly, kind of my summary of the strengths and some weaknesses / risk of Omnitude. So Omnitude, what is Omnitude? Omnitude is a middleware layer that connects e-commerce systems, enterprise software, and blockchains. Now, the ultimate goal and benefit is to be able to push, pull, and merge data between these systems Right now, these systems are in siloed. You have warehouse management systems not talking to your enterprise resource systems. And just for an example, if that means if those systems weren't integrated or the data wasn't flowing between those, you can have someone make an order for an item that you actually have in stock, that you actually don't have in stock. So one of the key things is to be able to integrate these ERP systems and to allow some of these enterprise systems, these enterprise companies and some of these small companies to have the ability to utilize the blockchain in a matter of hours. As of right now, some of the issues of trying to integrate these systems, it takes 4 to 6 weeks and a lot of money to try to get some of these e-commerce platforms to talk to these enterprise systems. And Omnitude is claiming to be able to reduce that 4 to 6 week time frame for some of these enterprise clients down to a matter of hours. So what's the value proposition? It's really to make the online retail marketplace more transparent, more profitable, and more secure. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, either you may or you may not believe that Omnitude will be able to do that. So some of the basic data of Omnitude, it was founded towards the end of 2017. I think it was thought of by Chris back in May. I was listening to a interview he had today, and I think he said the idea started back in May of 2017, but I think it was founded in the third quarter of 17. It's headquartered in the UK. It has, I was able to find 15 employees. I believe an interview he had again today, he had in the, I think 25 or 24 employees, but I have 15 because that's all I was able to find on the website. This is a platform. Omnitude is a platform type of token or project, and the token is a utility token. Looking at the bottom right, you can see how the number of 15 employees are broken down mostly in sales and marketing. You have a few business, which is mostly the management team, and then you have 20% in platform. And I would like to say that within the platform, I think I have 3 people are counted in platform, and 2 of them are consultants. So they don't seem like I don't believe they're full-time employees. So that's something to note. As far as the areas that Omnitude plans to address is e-commerce fraud, supply chain, multiple usernames, identity confirmation, and payment fees, which we'll go into on this next slide. So as far as e-commerce fraud, what's happening in e-commerce is that businesses are losing a lot of money, and customers are losing money as well. Based off of the statistics here, you can see 70% of customer disputes involve fraudulent activity related to chargebacks. And for every one of these frauds online, merchants, for every $100 of goods that were lost, merchants end up having to pay $223. And the types of fraud, you have credit card frauds where you have fraudsters stealing customers' information and using their credit card. You also have the vice versa. You also have merchant fraud where you may have a fake merchant sell you merchandise, or supposedly sell you merchandise. You send them the money and they have no plans of sending you any goods. And then you have something called friendly fraud. Friendly fraud is when a customer claims that they didn't make a purchase after they receive the goods. And, they're able to claim that they never received it if there's no tracking on the product. Another issue that they're tackling is the supply chain. So with supply chain, this is a big issue in e-commerce right now. When you have these third party vendors selling you an item, you have no idea if the item that they're sending you is actually authentic. You can see from some of the statistics that I was able to find is there's about $500 billion worth of pirated goods is traded each year. I mean, that's a lot of money. And 5% of goods imported to the European Union are fakes. I mean, that's an alarming figure to know that a lot of these goods are being transported to the European Union, and I'm sure a lot of that is coming here to the U.S. as well. And there's no way of being able to verify unless it's actually coming from the actual merchant that you purchased the item from. You can't rely on these third party vendors anymore. Another issue that they're tackling is the multiple usernames. Right now, it says 86% of users report being bothered by having to create new user accounts on websites. I know I'm in that 86% because I dread having to sign up for new websites. See, 54% of users say they may actually leave a website. I know I'm in that percentage as well, that if I had to sign up for some of these websites, I'm more likely to either try to find a different website that I already have a username or just not buy the item at all. And yeah, people just end up getting like password fatigue. So the fourth item is the identity confirmation. So one of the issues that we have now is a lot of people rely on customer reviews. Again, this is myself, that whenever I go out to eat, I'm checking Yelp. Whenever I travel, I go to TripAdvisor. So it's very alarming to find out that up to 15% of all online reviews are fake. And I also didn't know, this is a pretty interesting statistic to know, that for every star a business gets, there's approximately 5 to 9% increase in business revenues. So there's a huge incentive for people to potentially create fake reviews, which is a big issue in the e-commerce space. And lastly, one of the select issues that Omnitude is addressing is the payment gateway fees. Well, it's kind of the cost of doing business right now. Typically, a payment gateway fees to transact online, the fees are upwards of 2.9% of the transaction size. And also sometimes there's a 30 cent or up to 30 cent fee along with that transaction as well. So you could think about a transaction being 30 cents plus 2.9% of the transaction size. So how is Omnitude creating the new e-commerce experience? So I'll first talk about e-commerce fraud. We'll talk about e-commerce fraud and the traditional approach, and then we'll do that for the rest of them and go to the Omnitude approach afterwards. So if you think about e-commerce fraud, how does it happen now with the traditional approach? Right now, when you want to purchase something online, you have to either sign up, you put in your credit card data, you're entering in your credit card data online, and what happens is they store that information on central business networks, which sometimes are unencrypted. And not that Target's servers were unencrypted, but by having your data in one central place, it has the ability to get hacked. And what happens is that everyone loses out when that happens. So merchants have to pay customers back for the fraud. If a fraudster actually uses that credit card information, and then the customer's time trying to review their credit card history and make sure there are no fraudulent accounts. This is a very big inconvenience for the customer, and could hurt a merchant's brand by having their information hacked. So how does Omnitude plan to reduce e-commerce fraud? Well, one of the things is just the benefit of the blockchain. With the blockchain, it actually stores transaction data across various networks of computers or nodes. So not saying that it's not possible for it to get hacked, but it's not likely that someone can hack someone's data within the blockchain, because they would actually have to change all the information that's stored on all the other computers in the networks or nodes within the network, which is almost impossible. So the second thing is with supply chain. Right now, with supply chain, and I'm kind of mixing ERP as well, employee resource planning. But with that, with supply chain, you have people manually entering in purchase orders. And when you manually enter anything, there's always the user input error. And also with the traditional approach with supply chain is that merchants can still sell you counterfeit goods, and there's no way for you to track that back. So with Omnitude's approach, they want to have real-time, audible, tamper-proof record of a product's journey, and they'll do that by placing identifiers on products, and you'll be able to track from warehouse to the courier to different set locations to be able to verify that this product actually came from the manufacturer. And also within the supply chain, will give you the ability to do time release payments as well. So there are some sites where as a merchant, you don't get paid until the goods have been received by the customer. But now with this kind of real-time tracking, what you can do is you can say once the courier picks up the product, that maybe 20% of the funds are released. Once it reaches a particular person's city, that another 30% is released. And what that does is that helps increase the working capital for especially some of these small merchants to be able to buy more inventory and fund the operations of their business. So another thing is the multiple usernames. So with the multiple usernames right now, for any e-commerce site that you go to, they don't talk to each other. So every time you go on, you have a new username, you have to remember your password, you have to enter in your credit card information each time. And with Omnitude, their focus is to give you one Omnitude identity, which captures your credit card information and your preferences and like your sizes of your shirts and your pants, and it will all be encrypted and recorded on a blockchain. So you don't have to worry about someone stealing your credit card information or personal information, because it'll be encrypted on a blockchain. And also, as you use all the sites that are connected within the Omnitude system, you don't have to worry about creating new sign-in names and passwords and re-entering in your credit card information. So also, one of the traditional approaches for identity confirmation, which I touched on the previous pages, right now, if you want to write a review, I can write a review about anything in a restaurant or a hotel, and I've never stayed there before, and competitors can write negative feedback information to boost business for themselves. So what Omnitude does, Omnitude's approach to remove this issue is that they verify they verify what's called the proof of interaction. So when a customer elects to submit a review of the online merchant, the IDs of the customers and the merchant will be used to verify them from the blockchain, and just to make sure that they actually had a transaction with them, which is key. I mean, you want to make sure that this is not someone doing, having malicious behavior and just want to leave negative reviews, or even vice versa, positive reviews to increase the business. And Omnitude takes care of this by using the proof of interaction. So as far as the payment gateway fees, again, I touched on this in the previous slide, is that they have transaction fees up to 2.9%. Omnitude's approach is going to be transaction fees similar to gas. So what this is just you pay gas, which is just kind of an execution fee for every operation that's being used. And they haven't noted the actual percentage that they expect this to be, but they have noted within the white paper and websites and different interviews that the plan is for it to be a lot less than 2.9%. I have seen some similar competitors mentioning that they will have transaction fees of about 1%. So I don't know if that's Omnitude's range or whatnot. So that's something to be on the lookout for. And so as far as the Omnitude ecosystem and key concepts here, you can see that within this ecosystem, it has the merchants being able to push, pull, and merge data between each other within that center box using the ECOM token. They'll also be able to use the ECOM token to interact with suppliers and the couriers, and you'll be able to obtain the ECOM token within the exchange, and you can use ECOM token and exchange it for fiat. And on the top right, you see that the validating node, and to get a master node, I believe this was mentioned yesterday, would be 20,000 ECOM tokens. So some of the key concepts within their ecosystem, business model, kind of how it works, is the ERP systems. And I just want to make sure everyone understands some of the key terms. So with the ERP systems allow information to flow. And I think, similar to what I was saying in the first opening slide, is that you want the information to flow from the warehouse to the purchasing system. And currently right now they're in silos. So what Omnitude does is that they integrate them all so the information can flow between one another. An e-commerce software, this is actually, if you think about it, this is a online shopping cart, but it's actually it allows you to set up a store online. And one of the other key concepts of Omnitude is that they're being built on Hyperledger. Now, not many projects are being built on Hyperledger, so that this makes this project a little bit more unique. And some of the key things about Hyperledger is that it claims to be able to transact 100,000 transactions per second. It's a permission blockchain. It also allows for private transactions, which I think which is key with this business model, because if you're transacting and buying things in bulk from a supplier, what you don't want is the competitors to see this information publicly and be able to kind of back in and find out your pricing information. So the private transactions is actually pretty important for this type of system and what they're trying to create. And they're also going to have the ability to create dApps, decentralized applications. I think this is pretty cool as well, where I think some of the dApps that they're going to create internally is going to be like the single identity sign in for all the Omnitude linked e-commerce sites. I also remember, also for an interview I saw today with Chris, is that he plans to create, they're thinking of concepts such as a dApp that will record your sizes. So whenever you plan to buy something, the merchant can see your size and provide better recommendations of how jeans or shirts may fit for you. And lastly is this, the DPBFT, Delegated Practical Byzantine Fault Tolerance. Now, from what I understand with this, again, I'm not the technical guy, but from what I understand for this is that what I understand for this is what happens is there's a number of nodes and a membership of nodes, and one of the nodes gets selected as a leader, and then the leader then orders the transactions in the block. Then the validators then execute the list of transactions submitted from the leader and create a newly hash code block. Then the leader then validates the hash code blocks, and once it sees at least 2/3 of all the validation nodes have the same hash code, then it will commit that new block. And what this does is it offers immediate transaction finality, a high transaction rate, and high scalability. And next we'll talk about the market overview. So with the market overview, we'll talk about the size, some of the growth. So we'll talk about the market size, some growth drivers, and the competitive landscape. So e-commerce. So e-commerce, if you see from the chart on the left, you can see that e-commerce is growing rapidly, and with it looks like an average growth rate of about 19.2%. That's significant growth. And if you look at 2021, that's a significant market value of about $4.5 trillion being added to being transacted online. So Omnitude is definitely addressing a huge market size, which is key when I'm looking at companies. When we're looking at companies in M&A, one of the things that is important is the market attractiveness and the size and the growth. And e-commerce checks the market attractiveness. And to understand the growth of this 19.2%, it's important to understand some of the drivers of this growth. So the first part is to understand that there's a large number of people who are still unbanked. Now, living in a first world country, many people forget about that. And that's kind of why people understand the benefits of some of these cryptocurrencies, because it allows people that don't have banks to transact. And as the number increases of the unbanked people either becoming banked or using more cryptocurrencies to buy things online, this is going to fuel the growth for e-commerce. Also, the ability to be able to buy things from your mobile phone, that's driving the growth. And you look at point number 5. I mean, I'm everywhere I look. Every time I go to a mall, you see that brick and mortar stores are going out of business. The malls are empty. I think recently Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy. So a lot of these brick and mortar stores are going out of business, and the online businesses are thriving. Mainly, I mean, if you think about it, you don't have the cost of running a physical building, potentially less staff. So the expenses are a lot less. And the rise for the demand of global products, the more that we want products in different countries, then, we're not going to fly there probably for it. So our ability to be able to purchase that online is, if that increases, then that's going to help increase the growth of the e-commerce market as well. So this is a list this is my select list of the competitive landscape. Every interview that I see with the Omnitude team, they never mention competitors, or they typically say that there are no direct competitors. And I guess they're right. But there are different competitors in many of the different areas in which they're addressing within e-commerce. So you can see we have e-commerce, supply chain ERP, single identity confirmation, online payment, and I then tried to look into some potential competition from some of the traditional companies, non-crypto companies. So I'll start with the e-commerce side. You have Crypto, I believe, and they call themselves the eBay of the crypto marketplace. So, I just like to point out some of the key dates. Their ICO ended in April. They plan to launch their platforms in Q2 and Q3. Q2 and Q3 allows you to create stores, accept crypto, and payment escrow. So a few of the items of Omnitude, but not the full suite. JWC Ventures, looks like their private sale starts April 16th, so we have a few more weeks before that starts, but their focus area seems to be payments, product origin, trusted reviews, and supply chain. So again, it's addressing some of the issues of Omnitude, but not the full suite. And with Storica, I believe this was just recently listed. They have their MVP in either Q2, Q3 this year. Their main net will be Q1 2019. And focus areas, honest reviews, time release payments, and paying using cryptocurrencies. So in the supply chain arena, you have Sophia TX, Origin Trail, XM Chain. Now, these are all actually very strong supply chain companies, and I think the benefit with Omnitude is because this is a middleware, because it's a middleware layer, they'll actually have the ability to actually work with some of these companies. So, potentially we may see a partnership with Omnitude and Origin Trail, or Omnitude and XM Chain, or Omnitude and Sophia TX. I mean, I think that would allow faster adoption of maybe some of the supply chain, issues that they plan to solve within the e-commerce space. But Sophia TX is actually its own blockchain, and their focus area is actually integrating ERP systems and trace and track supply throughout the supply chain. That's a listed company. Origin Trail, I believe they did some work with Walmart or won an award with Walmart. But their main network launch is going to be Q3 2018. So their focus area is ERP, counterfeit, real-time information, data exchange, product authentication, and journey visibility. So you can see that many of the focus areas are actually areas of Omnitude. They're missing a few things, but they're addressing a lot of things a lot of issues similar to Omnitude when it comes to the supply chain. XMChain is a very interesting company as well. They're focused in the supply chain, ERP. Their system is actually private. They're actually private smart. They have private smart contracts, and also very interesting that they allow this supply chain finance. So what happens is that you can verify orders and provide financing through banks. So competition in the identity confirmation industry. So you have Revain, which is they provide authentic feedback, and their focus areas is ICO reviews and eCommerce. Zapit, verified product reviews. Their ICO is still running through April. Their beta launch Q2, and they plan to expand into eCommerce in Q3. So, again, I'd probably like to reiterate this is that, again, I think with Omnitude being this middle layer, that all these different segments can potentially be integrated into Omnitude. So it doesn't have to technically be competition. They can actually work together within the Omnitude system. So the next one is a single identity. Is the single identity, and very similar to what Omnitude is trying to do. Many of the launches for these are Q3, Q4 this year. One that I find Civic's been around for a while. One that I find interesting is Nuggets. Actually, one of the advisors is actually the strategic advisors to Nuggets, which I think it's a very interesting system. It's e-commerce payments. E-commerce payments using biometrics. Very cool concept. Very clean website. Token sale starts May 1st, 2018, but it looks like they allow they allow you to have your identity within the blockchain, and with kind of a push of your thumb, kind of similar to logging into an iPhone, you're able to use your information to purchase things. So I think that's pretty cool. So for the online payments, I think you have many competitors in this space, but I just spiked out Request Network and UTrust, and some of the key things that they are trying to focus on, of course, is the low transaction fees, similar to Omnitude, and UTrust specifically states fees of 1%, which is about 2% less than what traditional companies are currently charging. So I'll be curious to see what Omnitude's plans for their transaction fees. Then you have traditional companies. You have IBM that has their own blockchain service, and Oracle with their own blockchain service. IBM, of course, started I believe they started the Hyperledger Fabric, but they're both focusing on the ERP system, supply chain, and creating an identity within the blockchain. So there's some stiff competition for Omnitude. But I think many of these companies can potentially work with Omnitude and actually not have to compete with them. So the next section would be operations. So with operations, we'll talk about the overall team summary, the founders, core team, developers, advisors, and then the partners. So first, the experience profile. I like to kind of just get a high level view of what's the experience of the team, and I say there's some pretty significant experience. The average seems to be around that 10%. The 10-year time frame. So you have 36% of the employees 6 to 10 years, and this is like professional experience. 36% 11 to 15, and the 30 and plus. Those employees are actually the consultants for the blockchain. And again, another look at the employee split. I do like that there's a huge number of people in sales and marketing. I think you can have the best product, but if people don't know about it, then it doesn't matter. And the platform number being 20%, I think that's very low. I know they're working with an outside vendor to work on platform development. I'm not sure I believe it may be Swisscom. I think they help with the initial design and kind of mock up of everything. I'm not sure if they're going to work on the actual creation of the Omnitude platform yet. I think I'm still waiting on that announcement. So first is the founder, Chris Painter. So his tenure, and I'm getting this information from LinkedIn, years of professional experience, 10 years. I believe on the interview I heard today, he said his experience was 12 years. So my apologies if I missed 2 years of experience. Every year is important, but since 2009, he's the managing director of Pixel by Pixel. And a summary of his experiences, for me, I think he has strong leadership experience and very strong industry and e-commerce experience, which is very important if you're creating a new business to tackle the e-commerce market. So I think that's huge that he has that leadership and industry experience. I won't say a negative, but he does not have any blockchain experience, nor does many people who are starting these companies nowadays. I think it's just important that you at least surround yourself with people with blockchain experience. So we'll see as I continue to go through the core team and advisors of, you can make your own assumptions if you feel strongly that they can develop the product. So I guess just to highlight the company, what is Pixel by Pixel? So firstly, it's located in the UK. From the site, it says that 67 million pounds worth of transactions go through their systems. I believe that's every year. So that's a good amount of transactions going through their systems each year. Some of the services are a lot of it is leaning towards marketing, but web design, development, graphics design, branding, but they also have an e-commerce piece. I'm not sure the percentage. I believe it's a significant portion of their business, but they already do ERP integration, warehouse management systems integration, and single sign-on. So that's pretty promising to see that he already has a business that's doing majority of the things that he promises to do with Omnitude, but just on the blockchain. So another co-founder, Vladimir. He was announced co-founder back in February. He is the co-founder of CS Cart, who happens to be one of their partners, who I'll discuss a little bit later when I get to the partners section. But CS Cart is a pretty successful business. So I give Vladimir very strong leadership and industry experience in the e-commerce space. He doesn't have blockchain experience, but to know that he's built a business that now powers 35,000 stores in 160 countries gives me a lot of confidence that they could potentially build Omnitude and utilize the customers that they already have at CS Cart. I think that's a significant add to have Vladimir on a team. And the other founder is Robert. I've actually never seen Robert. I haven't seen Robert that active within the Telegram or many interviews. But, he is listed as founder and advisor. He's been with the company since October. He has 14 years of experience. He is the CEO of Wirehive and still employed there. He has strong leadership and industry experience in e-commerce as well. Some blockchain experience. His company is a web hosting company, and with Wirehive, they do web hosting for masternodes. He is the chair of their British Interactive Media Association, and he was an advisor to Daddy Token. So looking at the core team, you can see that there's a lot of experience here on the core team. If you look on the right as far as prior companies, no companies jump out, but everyone doesn't need to work for Goldman Sachs or Deloitte or things like that. I'm more interested in kind of background. What have you completed? I'm not giving people. I see people scoring because they've worked at Goldman Sachs or wherever, and I'm more interested. I want to see what have you done. So, a few things to note. You can see 4 out of the people here at one point were either currently work for Pixel by Pixel or at one point work for Pixel by Pixel. So, you can see that many people from Chris's team is actually working on the Omnitude company as well. Yuri, I think he was a new hire as of March. I did find. Okay, so yeah, he has 18 years of experience. His background being a finance director, controller. So that's important. You're raising $25 million. It's good to see somebody with some controllership experience, finance experience is going to be able to handle the money and fundraising. I also like to point out John Harris. I believe he's done a really good job with the branding, the Omnitude brand. Very simple logo. I like it. The website looks great. The white papers was very clean to read, and I like the color scheme for it. With Leanne, she started back in October of last year. She has some experience in crypto marketing, so I think that's important. And 15 years of experience in marketing. They have a very strong marketing brand teams. Greg, let's see. Yeah, Greg. I mean, if you're on Telegram at all, Greg's very active on Telegram. And lastly, I'll mention, looks like Martin. I wasn't able to find, because I'm pulling everything together, and Martin was just announced yesterday. I wasn't able to find any information on him, but looks like he'll be the Chief Operating Officer of the Americas for Omnitude. So on to the developers. So with the developers, you can see that they have significant experience here, and 2 out of the 3 developers here are consultants. Something else to mention is that I forgot to mention on some of the other slides is that there's only one here, Andrew, but I don't like to see no mention of Omnitude, especially if you're developing or critical to the development of the platform. I think you should associate yourself with Omnitude. So I'm not sure why some people add projects that they're working for. I mean, I know they're consultants, so maybe they don't add the companies that they're working with. But I would like to see that. They are both very experienced. As you can see, Benjamin's experience, he's worked for startups, background in quant development, some experience in blockchain, worked for Merrill, Chase. Those are some pretty big companies. James, he has his actually own Hyperledger consulting company, 30 years of experience and background as a software engineer. Ben Roy looks like he started back in February 18. Now, he seems to be the only full-time blockchain employee, and he has 7 years of experience. And from what I gathered, it looks like his software development experience started in 2015. I may be wrong. This is just my assumption of the data that I was able to gather from LinkedIn. So, do your own research, or maybe Ben can reach out to me and clarify if he's been doing any kind of software development prior to 2015. But I believe he recently graduated with his master's in 2015. But if I look at it, the platform development is the key to this company's success, and I only see one full-time employee that may only have 2 or 3 years of software development experience. So I understand they may have a vendor doing this, but I don't believe that's been announced. And I still would like to see more full-time developers on their team. So as far as the advisors, I know, again, a lot of professional experience here. There are a few no mentions of Omnitude. Again, I like to see, if you're an advisor, consultant, I like to see Omnitude listed on your LinkedIn, some association with the company, a Twitter mention. I do believe there was a conference in which Chris and Sally was there. So not that they're not associating themselves with the business. I just like to see it on their LinkedIn page. So just a few people to call out with Sally. She's very well known in the crypto space, but her background, Forbes and Technology Council, that's pretty big. And I think her contribution is to talk about cryptocurrencies and emerging technologies. She's also an advisor to Nuggets. I mentioned that in the competition space. And Nuggets is that eCommerce identity blockchain project, and she has a background being a chief innovation officer. Michael, 30 years experience. He has a strong background in payments history, in merchant services and payments. So that's pretty important for the Omnitude system. Simon looks like he's been the advisor of several different ICOs. He was the number one ICO expert advisor on ICO Bench out of 1,000 different advisors. I don't know their rating scales, so I don't know. I mean, anytime you're number one in something, that means you've accomplished something. I just don't know the qualifications to become number one, but that's still pretty impressive. Tiago looks like he's going to bring in that cybersecurity experience, and I did notice from Tiago's LinkedIn website that he has a history of working with Swisscom, and Swisscom is actually one of the partners of Omnitude that helped with the initial design. So maybe this is kind of how they made the connection with Swisscom to end up using Swisscom for their pre-development. Lastly, then you have Blockchain Mob, and this is a fairly new company. I think it started 2 years ago, but their focus is the blockchain development, turnkey ICO solution, and the ICOs they worked with was Lunga and Tokia. I tried to search. I've seen the names before, but I wasn't able to find them on any exchanges. But that's I guess it looks like Blockchain's job is mostly the ICO portion, not kind of how you run your business afterwards. And it seems as though both of those companies were able to raise the amount of funds that they were planning to raise, and that the ICO process went well, and that's their job. So no issues with Blockchain Mob. So some of the partners of Omnitude, well, these are the two announced partners for Omnitude. One I mentioned previously on the last slide was the Swisscom blockchain. They're a fairly new company. They started towards the end of 2017, but their services includes providing solutions to implement blockchain technology quickly. Their parent is Swisscom AG, which is located in Switzerland and has revenue of about $12.2 billion. So they're backed by a very strong, well-known telecom company in Switzerland. I think just the only item of concern is that they don't have many references of projects of helping ICOs develop blockchain platforms. But they do have a wealth of experience in their management team for the Swisscom blockchain segment. Their CEO, 15 years of experience, was recently an EY partner. Their head of ICO advisory, 7 years experience, manager of EY. And also co-founder, 7 years experience. He was the EY blockchain engineer. So a lot of people coming from EY. Their technology advisor, 20 years experience, was a technical advisor with IBM. And I believe they use majority of these services with Omnitude. They work with the initial design, strategy development, ecosystem development, use and proof of concept, MVP, implementation strategy. And I think they worked with Omnitude on all those. The other partner is CS Cart, which I mentioned several times before, which is the online shopping cart. This is key because I think it gives them access to 35,000 stores. And that's not including the number of customers they already have at pixel by pixel. I would like to see more of these partnerships announced in the future, but I think this is a really good start. So next we'll go through the roadmap and key dates to mark down. So looking at the timeline for Omnitude, the pre-sale started early Q1. The proof of concept was expected today, and it was And they did send a link to show the proof of concept. I actually did have a chance to play around with it a little bit, put some things in the shopping cart, look at the traceability as well. If you're the traceability option within the testnet that they have up, and I'll put a link to those things within the YouTube videos so you can actually look at the testnet yourself. So the current sale, the eCom sale is going on now. It's live now, and they plan to go on exchanges soon after the sale ends, which is about a month from now. I think April 25th, if it lasts that long. I don't think it'll last that long. It's pretty popular project that's out. So during Q2, they plan to announce a few more technology partners and work on phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1 is mostly focusing on system integration, the Omnitude ID, getting people access to the blockchain technology and payments. Phase 2 is they'll be focusing more on building additional decentralized applications and also getting the community involved to start building some more decentralized applications as well. They plan to launch they plan to have their mainnet in Q4 this year. Not sure of the timing of that. I don't know if that's October, November, December, but soon afterwards they plan to start working on phase 2. So the key date for me is Q4 when they launch the mainnet. So next is the token information. We'll talk about the token sale, distribution, and the utility of the token. Okay, so as I said previously, the sale is actually going on now, March 28th. It's plans to run to April 12th. I actually feel like that should be longer. I'm not sure if April 12th is correct. I thought it was April 25th. But the pre-sale ended. That was January 30th to February 12th. The ECOM, the ticker for the Omnitude token would be ECOM. It's the ERC20 token as of now. Once there's support maybe for our Hyperledger token, maybe they switch over. For the pre-sale, one ECOM was 40 cents, which is a 15% bonus to the current price of 46 cents. And they're planning to raise $25 million with a total token supply of 100 million, which is, for me, that's my sweet spot. I love low token supplies, and for me, 100,000 is considered low, very low for me. So this is definitely a really good sweet spot. KYC process. There is a KYC process, which I think is important. Kind of shows a little bit of legitimacy of the company. No country restrictions, which I think is wonderful. This allows me to actually participate in one of my first and only ICOs as of to date. Typically have to get things on the exchanges afterwards, and so I'm glad to be able to participate in this and actually the pre-sale. So how are the tokens broken down, the sale structure? So 50% is offered to sell as of now. And 5% was sold during the pre-sale. 12% will be given to the team and advisors. And it's important to note that 20% will be released each year. So that will avoid any dumping of ECOM tokens, and that would not incentivize people to dump their tokens, and because it's locked up, they wouldn't be able to do that anyway. And 33% of the tokens will be given to the Omnitude platform, the Omnitude Foundation. And then on the right-hand side, you have the breakdown for the funds to be used for the Omnitude Foundation. 60% will be given to the Omnitude platform. That's important because you want that large percentage to be used for the actual platform development of the Omnitude system. So I'd like to see that 60% going to the platform development. And I love, and I'll keep mentioning, I love the 20% given to marketing. I think it's important to market the product. Again, if no one knows about the product, then it's just a good product that nobody knows about. And also, I don't know if this marketing budget, because 20% is I think is pretty significant. I wonder if this 20% is actually going to be able to be used to get on some of these larger exchanges early on as well too. So having a large budget for marketing can potentially allow them to get listed on maybe Binance early or some other highly used exchange. And I also like to see this 5% in legal. Right now, with a lot of this regulatory uncertainty, it's just good to have a nice little reserve for legal, just in case there's some compliance issues in which Omnitude has to abide by, and we'll need to pay lawyers to take care of that. So the other part is the token utility. There are many uses for the token. You have a settlement between parties in the ecosystem. So some of the rewards, once you sign up, if you go to a merchant and you create the first time creating your Omnitude ID, every time you use that Omnitude ID going forward, that merchant that you originally signed up with, they'll get ECOM tokens every time you use that Omnitude ID going forward. So what that does is that forces the merchants to really push you to sign up and use the Omnitude ID. The ECOM token will also be used as loyalty rewards, and you can use them as payments within the system, buying products and things like that. The second one is to secure the system. So part of running nodes on the system, you'll need to have these ECOM tokens, and the ECOM tokens is also going to be used to raise funds, which they're using now to be able to develop Omnitude. So next we'll talk about the marketing and their online presence. So overall, from their website, actually was redesigned. I think within the last 5 days, I've noticed the website was updated. It already looked good before. Now it still looks good, just with different information. I like that they have a technical and a business white paper, very easy to read and understand, easy on the eyes. They have they're very active on the social sites, Telegram, Twitter, Facebook. You'll notice that they're posting several times a day. You ask a question on Telegram, I'm sure someone will answer it within, probably a few minutes to answer it. I do like the significant amount of funds that was allocated to marketing. Some of their third-party ratings, again, you take this however you want, but ICO Bench gave them 4.7 out of 5. ICO Ranker gave them 89% out of 100. ICO Marks 9.2. Again, I don't know how they're Well, they actually tell you their rating criteria, but again, you take these ratings however you want it, and so as far as their following, you see their Telegram is almost at 20,000 followers. Their Twitter is around 13,000 followers, and Facebook they have about 2,000 likes. So lastly, thank you for sticking with me throughout this time, going through my research process. So now you get kind of the summary, the positive, what I believe are the positives of Omnitude, and also the negatives / risks of Omnitude. So firstly, the market is very attractive. There's the e-commerce, the size of e-commerce is huge. And there's definitely a need for the type of services that Omnitude is looking to address. Secondly, the team seems very capable of tackling these e-commerce problems, being that they have significant experience and references within the e-commerce space. So I feel pretty confident that they should be able to manage the e-commerce part of the business with the wealth of knowledge and experience that the management team has. Which leads me kind of to their existing enterprise. This is also key that they already have an agency, an existing agency that does similar items such as Omnitude is looking to address. And they have references with large brands already, customers, large enterprise customers that they can pull in to use Omnitude, such as, they have CS Cart, and then Pixel by Pixel has their customers that they can bring into the Omnitude system. 4, which is, I had to wait until today to change this one, but 4, they actually have a prototype testnet. I tried it myself. I'll leave links in the details below for you to test it out yourself. So that's pretty important to have some type of prototype testnet. 5, I like that they're using Hyperledger, just because with e-commerce, there's going to be a lot of transactions, and you can't rely on 8 transactions a second. That will just slow up the system. You need something that's going to be able to use a lot of data, transact a lot of data, flow a lot of data per second because of the amount of transactions. If you have a multi-trillion-dollar market, you need to be able to transact as quickly as possible for some of these transactions to go through. I like how the system is stable and that it's private. So again, for the merchants, you don't want people to know that you're giving discounts and people be able to back in to find out how much the supplier is selling an item to you versus someone else. So I think that's key. I love the cross-chain capabilities. I know that's a key word right now within the blockchain space, because many blockchains are, and I can't remember who said this, but a great analogy that many blockchains are on islands and they don't talk to each other. So what these companies that have cross-chain capabilities is kind of just a bridge. So it allows these other blockchains to interact and allow them to be able to push and pull information from one another. And again, this is important because this is increasing the adoptability of Omnitude, because they're not necessarily competing. They're saying that we can work with you and use the information that you have within your system. First mover advantage, going back to some of the competitor space, there are some e-commerce blockchain projects that are coming out soon that are doing some of the items that Omnitude is looking to address, but I think Omnitude is kind of the first one that had the full suite of items. So I think they're going to potentially have the first mover advantage, and they also have some relationships in which they'll be able to have a good number of users to test this out very early on. I like the low token supply of Omnitude. You think of low token supply with high demand in a industry that's growing and a lot of transactions flow through each day. I see a lot of value in the token. I also like master nodes being rewarded for staking your tokens. This is important again. I know I've brought it up many times, but the strong marketing and branding is important with a sizable budget. So again, I think they'll be able to push this out to the right customers and market to the right customers to bring them on the Omnitude platform. They also have a strong list of advisors. I think that complements their expertise. So the risk or weaknesses, one of them is just the lack of partnerships. I know it's early on, but they have two partnerships now, one with CS Cart, the other with Swisscom to make Omnitude what Omnitude needs to be. They need a lot more. They need a lot more partnerships. So that's one of the weaknesses. Lack of full-time developers. Maybe there are more developers, but they aren't listed on their website. So, I would like to see more full-time developers working for Omnitude. Maybe they plan to hire more after the kind of this main sale here. But that's a weakness right now, to have one full-time developer with two consultants. And again, I think they have a vendor working on their development now, but still would like to see some full-time employees in the development space. I do believe there's going to be a lot of competition popping up in the future. So it's going to be a very competitive space. Will this first mover advantage keep them in the forefront? Who knows? Will IBM compete in this space? Will Oracle compete with Omnitude? Will they work together? I'm not really sure, but I think a lot of people are addressing some of the items that Omnitude plans to address, and just not sure how the competition will shake out. Who's going to win the e-commerce space? Number 4 is as I went through the core team, the management team, everyone seems to still be working at another company. So, for example, I guess all the founding members are still working at their respective businesses. What does that mean? How much time are people dedicating to Omnitude? Are they letting their other business, who's running their other businesses? I need to know how much time people are spending on Omnitude. Is this, a side hobby project, and, to see if this is something that can be something. I prefer to see people full-time working on any cryptocurrency project that I plan to invest in. And lastly this is more of a kind of a nitpick thing. They have no experience running a large company. Not saying, again, it's not possible, but it'd be good to see if somebody was maybe running a multi-billion-dollar business And again, I don't know the size of CS Card and their sales. I don't know if they're a billion in sales, but it's a different level to run a multi-billion-dollar business. And not saying again that they can't do it, but I'm just not sure. No one has that experience running a multi-billion-dollar business now. So that's my summary of the strengths and the weaknesses / risk of Omnitude. I want to thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed it, please remember to like. If you want me to change anything throughout these presentations, make sure you comment. Let me know what you like, what you didn't like, what should I do differently, and make sure you subscribe. And I will also put details under the video for people who want to obtain the presentation that I had today. I think it's a good supplement to any research you may be doing for Omnitude. So I'll put a link in the subscription for people to download the presentation. Again, if you stuck with me throughout this entire presentation, thank you. I appreciate it. And have a good night. Take care.